God has proved to me that He still has purpose in me. And if I keep confessing Him, that I shall not die, but I shall live and declare the word of the Lord. I shall sing the word of the Lord. I shall walk in the land of the living. By His stripes I am healed. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. The scriptures that you see in the beginning of the service are scriptures that I'm always relaying over myself. His word, reminding Him of His word. My health issues knocked me down. Me, Lord, me. Cancer. Okay. All right, Lord. What do I do about this? And not even just cancer, but the worst. The worst. The worst. The consultant shook his head. I'm sorry. But you know, I had a peace sat there listening to what he was saying. Because I know a God who is able. The same God who I've been serving and who has proved previous things. This is nothing to you, Lord. Lord, I ask God you prove yourself, and I do what you want me to do. And then after that, there are other things on the road that come and knock you off your feet. But you know, God is faithful. I'm not here for me. I'm here for Him.
Amen. Before we launched into the sets of amazing praise and worship, I referenced the book of Exodus, how the children of Israel cried out for deliverance. And God answered their cry through the miraculous movement that is recorded in scriptures. And when they were facing the enemy just before the Red Sea, they struggled, and yet God delivered them. And on the other side of the Red Sea, they could see Pharaoh and his armies coming after them on the same dry ground that God gave them to walk through. And they cried out, forgetting the God who did all the miracles to get them out, with all the provision that they needed. And the sea, what did it do? It crashed upon the enemy. And they began to sing unto the Lord, who is their rock and their song. The horse and the rider is thrown into the sea. There's a journey that you've been on, which you shared a bit. Now, you have been a Christian most of your life, grew up in church, anointed worship leader. You've led worship for years. And yet the name of the song is Freedom to Worship. And though it was written 21 years ago, you said to me, I didn't realize what it meant until now. And something that I said about the Israelites, that though they were free, though they sang praise about God delivering them from their enemies, they still had a journey to take to freedom. Yes. And freedom in worship. What does that mean? What does freedom to worship mean to one who's been leading worship and worshiping God all of his life? What does that mean? And how, the reason I ask is to encourage those who have gathered tonight that there's a difference between singing and continuing in the struggle and having a sacrificial worship, and then to come into that place of freedom. What does that mean?
Audience of one. Audience of one, having no boundaries and just giving everything to God. I tell you this, and it always comes back to me when I was going through my treatment of chemotherapy, and it's a cycle you've got to go through. And I remember being in bed, and you didn't know what time it was, and but in me, I was doing this inside. There was worship going on inside, and I couldn't understand what was really going on because my outside, my body was weak. But there was worship. Sometimes we think that's worship. That's the only way we can worship Him and bow down. But what if you can't do that? You have to make your mind up in your situation. When the situation is broken down, when your marriage is broken down, when your child has passed away, whatever the road that you've been on, your struggle, there's a worship in it. Because God is creating some faith in you, lifting your faith. There's something. When you've done all that you can do, you can't do anything. Something rises up. And it happened again in August last year. I lost a very close friend, and another situation happened, and I couldn't do anything. And I lay on the settee for a few weeks. I did. No. And then one day watching a pastor on the TV, there was like I spoke about the volcano. There's something happened in me. I rose up off the chair and I stood in the living room like this in front of my big TV with my hands like that.
It is a big TV.
And I claimed my victory. My freedom of worship started to come back. The tears started to cease. There's a sister over there who always tells me, dry your eyes, don't cry. And my worship started to come back. So I never lost it. It was just clouded. It was just the process I was going through. And tonight I just want to encourage you that you might not have that freedom right now, but you can have it. Give it to Him. He knows where you're at. But lift up your voice to Him. Yeah? Does that make sense?
It does. I think one of the greatest things in worship is surrendering yourself to God. We just celebrated Easter. And it's not just a religious holiday, it's not just a religious festival. It's about a real man who was God, who came down to be clothed in humanity, in the likeness of a sinful man, though he never sinned. And he lived the struggle. He was a man of sorrows, a man of great grief. He wept. Jesus wept. He's a God who understands our struggle, and yet He is a God through Jesus Christ who taught us how to worship in the midst of our struggle, in the midst of our journey. He said, unless you deny yourself, which is the first step of worship, you pick up your cross. In other words, you come to Him with your stuff. And you surrender yourself fully to Him and then follow Him. That's worship. That's worship. You say, Jesus, you are the Savior of the world. You left heaven's throne, came to this earth, even if it was for you, for me alone. You clothe yourself with humanity. You understand my pain. You understand my struggle. And yet you come You died for me. Come into my heart. I need you. I surrender my all to you. That you become Lord of my life. Allow your kingdom into my heart.